undergoing such hardship, and there's lots of cases happening in both countries. It's so important to remain connected, to remain helpful, to remain supportive to the other. So yeah, it's just like that. Same as a friendship. You can't be there just in the good times. You have to be there for each other in the bad times as well.
Thank you, Mas. And now I would like to hear from Abdur.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Citra. Thank you, Mas Dan, as well, for the answer. I think it's very crucial, right, for both Indonesia and Australia to remain connected, not only because we are that close physically, but also culturally speaking, we have a lot of common things between Indonesians and Australians as well. And knowing that the COVID-19 has, made a lot of situations hard, and that includes, flights between Indonesia and Australia, Australia people wanting to move to Indonesia and vice versa, or even just having a vacation or even having a gathering, for example, in AIYA members from Indonesia and in Australia. I think it's going to affect a lot on how we communicate. And thankfully, the technology is that advanced so that I can be connected with Masden right now. I can be connected with Mbak Citra and a lot of all the AIYA friends. And that shouldn't be hindering the fact that we can still remain connected, though not physically. So if I am asked the question of why we should remain connected, I think because we're going to lose a lot if we don't remain connected. If we're only focusing, for example, Indonesia only focusing on how we combat the COVID-19 in our lands, and if Australia only focuses on itself on how to combat COVID-19, I think it's going to be a discussion that's not going ever to finish, because when it comes to a global pandemic, we need to be generating connectivity and also cooperation among our countries. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to remain connected.
Wow, amazing sharing, Masdan and Abdur. Thank you so much. So yeah, like we will be neighbor until the end of the world, right? Like so that is why like we need to stay connected. And so like during this pandemic, like I'm sure that like you have also experienced some challenges in terms of like building network and also or like starting or maintaining or like expanding even like during the COVID pandemic. I would like to hear from Dan and Abdur the challenges that you have faced like during this COVID pandemic in expanding international networking, and how do you guys like overcome the challenges as well?
Mas Abdur, you go first.
Okay, thank you, Masden. Okay, Mbak Citra, that's a really interesting question. Perhaps I want to craft my answer in the form of my personal story. I don't know with you guys, but logging into Zoom, having an account in Google Meets, it's not something that common. I've never been taught by any teacher how to have a video conference with someone that is not close to you, right? Because whenever we want to have a meeting in IYOIN itself, I've been in IYOIN for 3 years, and whenever we want to have a meeting for even like a 15-minute, 20-minute meeting, we have to meet physically, right? We have to meet, face to face, and that's one obstacle back in the day, because it's going to be a trouble for those living far away from each other, right? But the existence of technology being connected through video conference, I think it helps a lot. So if I have to share my personal obstacle, I would say the awareness of being acquainted with technology, which I think takes a lot of time. I remember the first time I used Zoom for when I was in final year in law school. I didn't even know how to unmute myself. I don't know how to share screen. I don't know if I'm connected to the Zoom account. So the obstacle will be that technology awareness. So, but I think as the time goes, but I really do hope that the pandemic ends. But as the time goes, we are very, very, used to using technology, right? So the obstacle would be technology awareness. That would be from me. Masdan, if you have any answer on that, please add.
Yeah, I like the personal experience perspective that you brought. So for me, in my personal experience, COVID's actually been quite a large obstacle. If you'd asked me a couple of years ago where would I be now in 2021, I would have hoped that I could have said I would have a job in Indonesia and I'd be working in Jakarta, for instance. But that couldn't happen because COVID-19 closed the borders. And even in that little profile that Chitra very graciously described, I'm on my law firm's committee, which looks at opportunities in Indonesia. We had a planned joint event with an Indonesian law firm, which I was going to go to in Indonesia, and that got cancelled because of COVID-19. And I don't think we've had a meeting since, a year and a half ago, because what are we going to meet about? There's no opportunities that we can go for in Indonesia anymore. So professionally, it's been really, really tough for me. It means that I have to do things like this. I'm so grateful that I've got AIYA, where it's like, if it wasn't for this youth association, I wouldn't have any direct, conversations with Indonesians day to day. So, a way around some of these obstacles is really make sure you're doing multiple things, which can be tough. It's time consuming, it's a lot of effort. But when you're looking for opportunities, you need to have a lot going at once, because only one or two of them are really going to break through. So always try and have different options available to you.
Wow, thanks, Mas Dan and Abdur. With the Zoom issue, I think like we all can relate. Yeah, we are like not used to it now. Like we have to. It feels like after 2 years, like after 2 years of online programs, it feels like we have just graduated from like almost diploma of Zoom, right? Okay. And for my next question, Mas, I would like to ask, I'm sure like people here come because you're like wondering, like, oh, how do I actually start, and what do I need to prepare if I want to involve in the, involve in this international opportunity, like organization or like volunteering, and then like how do you from your experience start building your network like in the international network, and what would you advise like to people who would just starting to think, like to build like their network?
I might have a stab at this one first. I think, you have to start small. One thing I've noticed through my career and as I've sort of progressed is networking gets a lot easier, because if I walk into a conference or an event now, if we did have physical events, there's usually about 4 or 5 people that I know from previous conferences. And so it's a lot easier for me to then walk into that room, say hello, and then now I'm in a nice, safe group. And I can then look around and talk to other people from there. The hardest one is always the first, where we don't know anyone. So what you need to think of as you're building your network is how to start small. And the easiest way usually is like, you usually have friends in university. That's your first network. Or you've got family. That's definitely your first network. And from there, if there's a university society that you can join with a friend. And then you've got that comfortable, safe space to then build your network out. If you've got friends or family who might be doing, I'm not sure, Mas Abdur, if you've got a brother or something or a sister, they could join in with your youth startup as well. Like, so all this, we all know someone doing something interesting. The first step is to say, can I join? Can I help you out? And then start building a network from there, because it gets easier as time goes on. You just have to find a place to start.
Okay, that's really cool, Mas. Then I really agree with starting small, because when you start your first anything, actually, when you start everything the first time, it's not going to be that easy because you don't know a lot of people. And I really also agree, when you enter your second or your third or your fourth conference, there's always these several people that you already know. Okay, I met you here, or at the very least, this guy knows a friend of mine, right? Or this girl knows a friend of mine. So that's going to be really easy for you to start your networking, and let alone international networking. But if I can add regarding, maintaining networking, I think a lot of people only focus on, okay, I'm going to join this very, very big conference in Australia, and that's it. They don't want to maintain or even extend the network beyond that. And when I see in some people is that they think that by just joining 1 or 2 conferences, either online or offline, they think that they have international networking. the fact is, I think networking is something that just cannot be achieved in only one occasion, right? You have to maintain it. You have to, pursue beyond that. For example, my relationship with the organizers in IYOIN in this organization, Ian, for example, I've been working with Ian for more than 2 years, and now Ian is just extending his networking so that I can know Mas Dan right now, I can know Mbak Citra right now, and I can know a lot of AIYA people, right? And that would not happen if I only know and want to know Ian for an exact 1 year, for example. And that's really important because from here, it's going to be another new connections after that. Perhaps Mas Dan are holding an event, or Mbak Citra is holding an event, and then Mbak Citra wants to invite people from AIYA, or Mas Dan wants to invite people from AIYA, and that's going to go from there, so on and so forth. So I think it's very important to make and maintain that connection. I think that's from.
Wow, thank you. So not only creating but also maintaining connection is really, really good. I mean, really, really important. Something that we need to do, like keep doing, yeah. And what about like for those students, must I know that people, or like we have participants who are like not really confident with their language, and then like before they even start, they start like doubting, like, oh, should I join this, like
Yeah.
because I see these members, or like this community, they speak like fluent English, and I don't know, like I don't really know like how to speak English, and etc etc, like, oh, they all like look cool, have a exchange experience. I'm just like going to uni and that's it, like for uh students, or like early young professional who have that thoughts, like what would you recommend?
Okay, I'm gonna go first, or Mas Dan, if you wanna go first.
Nah.
Okay.
It's not a competition.
Okay. So I just remembered one story of adaptation, right? But
Yeah.
Chitra's question is about how we first started and how we go on from there. I remembered joining. I was joining an English course. In Indonesians, it's very common for the parents to send their children to an
Oh yeah.
additional language course, right? Or we call it as bimbingan belajar or bimbel, right? I remember in one particular bimbel, English bimbel, uh, I was taught for the first time. I was taught by native speakers, not from Indonesia. I cannot remember if he was Australian or somewhere from Europe. I can't remember, but it's either two of them. I remember when the class finishes, we do the salam thing. Mbak Citra, no, right? Every time the class finishes, we salam the teacher, right? And then
Yeah.
without the proper conscious, I did that with my native teacher, and my native teacher went shocked. And then the next day he told me, Abdur, why did you salam me, right? And I was, oh, I forgot. We're used to doing this with our teachers. And then he said, okay, you don't have to do that here. So it's super chill, super okay. If you just if you want to go to the toilet, just go to the toilet. If you want to go out, just go out. So that adaptation itself is it's not something that I was scared, but rather it keeps me excited because I want to know more, right? And I think this applies whenever you want to first learn English, or you want to conversate in English, right? The first thing that you have to do is to make mistakes. I think without making mistakes, it's going to be very hard for you to know what aspects that you can improve, right? So the first thing that you have to is to try and just make mistakes, as many as possible, because it's your first time. After that, you can maintain your competency in English. You can maintain your skills in other fields other than English, and I think that can expand your networking beyond your surrounding. I think that's from me.
Untuk pertanyaan ini saya coba di bahasa Indonesia
Okay.
karena pasti saya malu juga ya, saya malu juga. Tapi harus menjadi berani karena ketika ketemu orang pertama kali, apa yang mereka ingat tentang kamu ya? Kalau itu superficial aja, mereka nggak terkait sama kamu, kalau kamu coba and they see that, they try to help you, itu lebih like memorable. Jadi itu bikin hubungan lebih kuat. Jadi like harus coba ya, harus coba, dan kalau gagal itu mungkin menciptakan hubungan lebih baik ya, lebih like they'll remember you forever. They'll definitely try and help you out. Everyone's really nice in these circles. Jadi coba.
Wow, thank you, Masdan and Abdur. So for those who are still like questioning whether like you should start joining, you know, like international organization or like community, just be you and do it, right? Like, so that's what we learned from Masdan and Abdur today. And also for my next questions, I would like you to reveal your secrets. So I'm just like wondering, what do you think are the secrets behind getting to where you are? You know, like being the president of IYOIN or national director of AIYA, that, you know, like you have developed like a lot of skills or like long journey until where you have where you are now. So yeah, I would like to hear, what do you think are the secrets behind getting to where you are? It won't be a secret anymore, yeah, because you'll be sharing this. Silakan.
I'll try. I'll give two secrets. So the first is, and it goes off what we said before, starting small. Like in Chitra's introduction of me, those were all like the last or the best things that I did. Before I was president of the Law Student Society, I was the IT officer, and I didn't know how to make websites, but I just like Googled it and tried to do it as I did at the same time. I then went from like treasurer, I went from IT officer to treasurer, then to president, like, but I don't put the other ones on my CV. It's not on my LinkedIn. It's not in these introductions. It's always the smallest step where you start with. Like that's a big secret, is these bigger things come out of the smaller things that you start with. So that's number one. The second, which I think is a good example for when you're meeting people, it's try and have them walk away knowing something about you. So rather than just getting a business card or a LinkedIn connection, like I really want to know something about Abdur at the end of this. Like I know now, like he went to University of Indonesia. Maybe something I would ask him if I met him in a room and we're just chatting is like, oh, well, what do you want to do for your career? Like what really motivates you? What do you want to do? And then we might not talk for a year or something, but then I see an opportunity and I go, oh, Abdur would be perfect for this. And I can send them a message and we can continue and maintain our relationship. That doesn't happen if I didn't ask that question. I wanted to know more about him and I was genuinely wanting to help and be curious about him. So that's a big tip. That's a big secret, I think, because lots of people go to these events, they don't really want to connect with others in that way. That's what you got to try and do.
Okay, I really agree with that. So yeah, the secrets which will not be a secret anymore. I will say I also have two secrets. Okay, the first one is when you attend any event, it doesn't have to be a conference. It can be, you know, competition, workshop, seminars, or webinars like this. I will say for you to get to know people, not just because you want to know them, but because you want to be a friend with them. I think that's really important because most people only see, you know, each other as, okay, I know this guy from this seminar. I know this girl from this workshop, and that's it. So I think wanting to extend your relationship with someone within just being an acquaintance to become a friend, I think that's one of my secrets, you know, to maintaining really good relations with a lot of people. I once met, you know, someone who I knew probably 5 or 6 years ago, but until now I can still maintain relations, right? And what I did, and I think this is my second secret, what I did was to be connected through social media, right? It doesn't have to be a LinkedIn. It can be as simple as Instagram or Facebook. And when they updated a story, when they updated, you know, a post, you know, give a like, give a comment, ask how she's doing or how he's doing. I think simple questions like that can maintain your relationship, and I think that's two of my secrets, in getting to where I am today, in which that I really love talking with people. I love accepting invitations to talk with people. I will make time, I will free my schedule just to hang out with my friends. I think putting that, within the same importance with your work in your office, for example, I think that will elevate you in life, knowing that life is not all about working, but life is also about socializing, maintaining relationships, having a lot of friends as possible. I think that will be two of my secrets.
I wanted to add on to that point because it's such a good one. Like sometimes it happens where like you don't want to go to an event beforehand, like you're feeling like you just don't want to do it. That's okay as well. Like if you're not in the mood to talk with people and be friendly, like don't force yourself. Like that's the worst thing to do. Always be happy and wanting to do these things.
Wow, thank you so much, Dan and Abdul, for revealing your secrets that are not so secrets anymore, right? So we need to start small, try to get them know about you, and do not only come for collecting business cards, right? And usually in addition to business card, you go there because you want the free food.
Yeah.
Or free drinks, right? And when you go to the networking event, do not forget to try when you have like this connection already. It is important to connect the relationship, and then it will be good for you to also connect on social media. So that's what I learned from Dan and Abdur about their secrets. And I think my last question before the question and answer with the participants here. I would like to ask about tips for getting the most out of a networking event. Like, what would you like recommend for us like to do in terms of like to get the most out of a networking event, and also maybe another tips like the attire that you would recommend as well to go like to networking event. So this is based on my personal experience like in Jakarta. So a friend of mine like invited like, oh yeah, come for a networking event. The dress code is casual, right? So it's a casual. When I got there, oh my god, like everyone was wearing like sharp banget jadi business attire, yeah. Like, oh no. Luckily at that time I was already prepared. So maybe you would like to share your experience and then also like trick and tips in this case. Thank you.
Abdul, you go first.
Okay, so attires, right? Okay, and also getting the most out of a networking event. I would say, okay, from appearance side, right? I'm this person who always uses the same kind of suit. What I only want to change is perhaps the color of my tie, right? So I will adapt my tie's color with the theme of the conference. For example, if the conference is all red, I will use a red tie, right? Or even if the conference is all blue, I will use a blue tie. I think that the reason for that is for you to be easily recognized by people, right? Whenever I go to a conference, and this is during my college days, right? During my law school days, whenever I went to or attended a conference, there's always people who did not know me earlier, but then realized that this certain attire is, this is what my friends describe as Abdur, right? So and then he or she will, approach me and said, "Hey, are you Abdur? Because I know you like, wearing this from my friend who's from this." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So who's your friend?" and all that, and that again builds a new connection, right? So getting the most out of the conference is to really live the conference as if that's the last. I think that's the best answer for that, because I see several people who only attend conference just for the certificate, or just for the sake of, uploading to social media, and that's it. They will be very happy taking selfies, and then once the selfies are done, they're not going to focus again on the speakers talking in front of them. So getting the most out of something, it can be in a form of, make using your best attire, but apart from that, I think to really learn a lot, make sure that once you have poured a lot of money, paying for a conference, or you put a lot of energy, you're freeing your time, you're freeing your schedule just to attend a conference. I think it's really important to just, absorb all the knowledge that is available, so that you can be, you can gain something. Make sure you gain something from a conference. Don't go to a conference and then you get nothing. I think that's just really a waste of time. You only get, selfies and all that. I think that's nothing compared to all the knowledge that you get. Then, if you want to add.
Yeah, definitely. Dealing with the clothing part first, Chitra, preparation is really underrated for these events. I quite often will email or call the organizers, because they're also people you network with. Like, usually if they're making the event, usually they're someone you'd like to know as well, because there's going to be future events as well, or they're in the industry that you're interested in. That's why you're attending their event. And you can really easily ask them, what do you expect people to wear? Like, don't ask them, is it casual or business casual? No one knows what that actually means. Like, are people going to be wearing t-shirts? Are people going to be wearing batik? Are they going to be wearing suits, equivalent for female dress? Like, really easy to ask them that. And the second one, which is actually is a bit of a secret, try and sometimes ask for the guest list, because that's really handy, because then you can sort of know there are people who are in my circles that I'm interested in talking with, or there's people I know and I can recognize. And frankly, like, you can do a bit of a refresher if you met them a couple of years ago to remind yourself, who they are, what they've been up to lately. So that's a big tip to sort of prepare yourself before the event. In terms of what I like to get out of it, it's changed. Earlier on, I was much more, like, I was trying to be sort of as brave as I could be. So I sort of set myself a challenge of try and talk to the most important person in the room. So if there was a judge, I would make it a thing where I'd try and talk to them, because that's such a great experience. Over time, because that's a lot of pressure, I've just come to understand, like, I just want to make a couple of friends out of an event, even just one. Success for me is there someone I meet at the event who I would contact afterwards to catch up with separately? If the answer to that's yes, and there's only one, it's a really successful event. And sometimes what's happened with me is I've actually just spent the whole event with that person, the first person I met. And I didn't feel pressured. I wasn't sort of checking my watch. I was just, this is where the night's taking me. This feels really good and natural. And those have been connections which have lasted for a couple of years. So yeah, try and focus on the long-term friendships that you're going to make, and don't worry about quantity.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mas Dan and Abdur, for sharing, like your experience
You
with
give
us
us one
today.
secret, Chitra. What's your secret?
Oh no. I prefer to keep my secret as my secret, Mas. Okay, so we have a lot of questions here. So for those who still want to ask questions, feel free to put in the chat there, because we have like 2 prizes later on. So for the first question, let me check. Okay, I think it was from Mas Iqbal. Iqbal, would you like to ask your question directly?
Sure.
Unmute.
Wait.
Okay.
Hi guys. Hi Jan. Hi Abdur. We met in Bali Democracy Forum. Do you
Hello,
remember me?
Val. Yeah. Where's your face, Val? Where's your face? Oh,
here.
okay. Okay.
Okay. So before I came into my question, I would like to also thank everyone for having this AIYA Connect 3. It's kind of like a reunion, like a mini reunion between me and Abdur after like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, in
Yeah,
2019. We went for biodemocracy forum and I met Abdur right there. He's a bright student and also like I learned a lot from him as well. But my question for Jen is obviously when we learn new language and when you're learning Bahasa Indonesia, it was always been like a challenge, right? A lot of my foreigners friends, they said that when they mention words with ng, like N and G, was one of the hardest, let's say, part of learning Bahasa Indonesia. What about you? What was your challenge, you know, when you're learning language, and how did you overcome it?
I still don't do it really correctly. I remember I was with a friend trying to go through it, and they would say to like demonstrate it to me, and I'd go back, and they're like no, and I just could not tell the difference at all. In terms of, I think the thing I struggle with most, and it's quite common for Australians, is Australians are santai banget, yeah, like we're really relaxed, but the Indonesian we learn is very formal. So often we feel uncomfortable talking just bahasa yang benar because it feels like we're talking like a newspaper reader or something. It just feels, particularly when all our friends are young and they're talking like quite quickly using slang, like that's a really uncomfortable experience because it feels like I don't want to speak like I'm someone's grandpa when we're the same age. That's sort of what it feels like.
Yeah.
And usually the thing is, it's everyone I've met in Indonesia for the most part at conferences speak English. So it's really easy to switch to English. But I've noticed at conferences, I tend to have better connections and relationships with people because I try to speak to them Indonesian compared to some of my other Australian counterparts who just stick to English. And so I would encourage that to anyone, you know, if you find someone you got a common language, try it out, even if you're not the best at it. Because there's just like, there's like questions you don't think of in one language or the other. Like you just need to exercise both parts of the brain.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I also agree on that, especially when we learned English when we were in elementary school or junior high school back then. It's always been very, I don't know, like there has been the set of the language, right? Like we didn't know how things are, you know, like more informal in some extent. And that is why I think I came to learn more towards the slang language when I came into the university life, where I got to expose a lot more different you know, friends. I joined a lot of conferences and I joined a lot of different student exchange, and that exposed me with different, you know, way of speaking the language, especially English, in a more, you know, like casual and informal way. So I do agree on that. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Iqbal, for your question. And for next question, I would like to invite Tifa Laili Safitri. Tifa, can you please unmute yourself to ask the question?
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. I wish my connection is clear so I can.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Wait. Okay. Because I'm having technical glitch on my internet connection, so you can hear me clearly.
Mhm.
Okay. So when we are, I'm Tifa from Jakarta. So when we are, my question is because we have different culture with one another. So if both of you feel offended by something you see or experience in the networking events, what is the best way to respond? And the other way around, if you unintentionally offend one of your peers, what is the best way to apologize? Because sometimes you don't know what is, sometimes in one culture, is it okay to say this or to say that, to act like this, to act like that, but it's not okay for the other culture to respond also.
You go Abdul.
Okay, but Tifa, thank you. This is a really good question. So whenever I feel offended, right, in any shape, form, or way, in any networking event, what I will do first is to first analyze whether I really feel offended because of what he or she said, or is it because of something that, you know, that already crossed the line. Because sometimes what happens is you only feel offended because you don't get to realize that they're coming from another country, right? For example, if we as Indonesians, if we're giving out, if I'm, for example, I'm passing this pencils to Mbak Citra, for example, using my left hand, that will be very, very offensive, right? But that's not the case in perhaps other countries outside of Indonesia. So if I feel offended at first, I would say, if this particular person does not know that this is something that's offensive to me, then I would not feel offended, especially in networking events where a lot of people are coming from different countries. But if it is the other way around, what if I'm the one who offends a particular person from different country? What I would do is to, approach that person, slowly explain that that was not the intention that I wanted to do in the first place. And if they feel offended, or if they don't feel comfortable with the way I did it, I will just straightly apologize without having, arguments to defend myself, right? I will not say, oh, I'm sorry I did this because I thought. No, I would just straight say I'm sorry because I don't know, and I will not do that again. So if that's the case, if I'm the one that offended, Ms. Dan, if you want to add on that.
That's such a good suggestion. Like the "I'm sorry" full stop is something very few people do, but it's so powerful. So I'll definitely echo that. Um, it's a tough one, and I think it's particularly difficult for women in professional settings because there's so many other offensive things that sort of happen there. I think a really common one is between Australia and Indonesia. Asking people if they've got a boyfriend or girlfriend, it differs between cultures. And definitely if you asked an Australian woman that, particularly in a professional event, and you're a man, that would be pretty unacceptable. So it's hard to, I find most people that goes to these events have some awareness of the cross-cultural differences. So really it's that second part of the question, which I think is really important. Like if you do unintentionally do it, you tend to pick it up on someone's face. Like they'll make a slight thing, the conversation will sort of get a little bit awkward. And then maybe they're gonna go to the bathroom and then they don't come back or something like that. We're in an online world now. I quite like being able to message people afterwards because previously you would never see that person again, maybe. It's really easy to chat to a friend and say like, I want to send a message to this person. Can I just talk with you and we can come up with a nice message, a short message? And it would sound something like, hi, it was really great meeting you at the event yesterday. I just thought that maybe I might have upset you with this comment or something like that. Really sorry if that's the case, but would love to catch up and clarify if you like or something like that. And that's quite nice too.
Okay, thank you, Mbak
Thank
Tifa,
you.
for your
Yeah.
question. And I think similar with Mbak Tifa's question here, we have Zahra and Ria. They are like asking question about the what for those who struggle like to socialize in this like networking event. What's the best thing to do? As in, like, what kind of like conversation to start that like we should do like in that networking event, and what not to talk about.
That's a really good question because I found that one a hard one to think of an answer to, because you're right. Some people are introverted and it's really hard as a not introverted person to give advice that you haven't already heard before. Like, well, take a friend with you, you've heard all those answers before. Thinking set questions and phrases are really useful and practicing them. I think of it a bit like chess. If anyone plays chess and you have different opening moves, the better players play the same opening again and again because they know where the failing points are and where the good points are. So I've got like generally a couple of questions I usually use. If you're not working, what do you do? Do you play a sport? Do you have a hobby? That's a really easy question. Another interesting one for me was like, when you were a child, what did you want to like be? What was the job you wanted to be as a child? Because usually that's very different. I meet a lot of lawyers at conferences no one generally wants to be a lawyer when they're 5 years old. So it's like really interesting. Like you'll find something real about them by that question. So like some little creative ones like that are a good way to start a nice open conversation. Don't do closed ones like, what did you do yesterday? Or how's work? Those are, you're not going to have fun conversations with those usually.
Okay, I agree with that too. What I also do, just to pump up conversations, right? Mas Dan, if you already know this term in Indonesia, we call it basa basi, right? Mbak Citra, basa basi. There's a lot of
Correct.
things that
Small talk.
there's a lot of things that we can start just by having basa basi, right? As simple as, hey, can I sit here? Or hey, do you enjoy the speaker? Or hey, do you get confused with what the speakers are saying? Sometimes that's what I did, well, during my time attending conferences. Sometimes I would just approach someone immediately, right, and just ask this basa basi question, and then from there sometimes the question goes on, without having a list of questions in mind. I just okay, this was her question, this will be my answer, and this will be my next question, will be her her next answer, and so on and so forth. So basa basi, I think most Indonesians will see basa basi as an ineffective way, right, to start communications. But when it comes to conferences where we don't know a lot of people, I think that's a good way to start. And from there, we can use questions that just Mas Dan just presented, questions that are not boring. Instead of asking how's work, you can just ask more interesting questions regarding someone's life without asking personal questions, because we only met them for like 5 minutes, right? So make sure to have that as a starter, and then the list of questions can start once you can start your conversation.
That's a really good one. I actually wanted to add to that. Not only having the sort of questions, but having answers that you like. Some people wonder, how is someone such a good storyteller? You have those friends who are really good, and it's like they've told that story probably 50 times and they've like perfected it, and so one thing that I've learned to become better at is explaining my Indonesian heritage. Because like I didn't really put that up front. If I go to Indonesian conference, I might mention it here or there. But now it's like, I'll pull out my driver's license and I'll have Joyo Suwoyo there. And Indonesian's like, oh, he wasn't kidding. Like he's from Java. So like, I think of a conversation like a game of catch. You can't just keep throwing a ball at someone. At some point, like, you've got to receive it as well. You've got to give them some answers, tell them something about it yourself. So that's an important part of the conversation too. You're on mute, Mike Chitra.
Yeah, thank you, Dan and Abdur. I hope Ria and Zahra, I think they really answer like the questions and share like their experience as well. So another question from Fikran. Fikran, would you like to unmute your microphone and ask?
Oh, thank you, Mbak Citra. I'm actually a little bit shy because I'm really new here. I'm just asking for both Mas Dan and Mas Abdur, as we know that Indonesia and Australia really enjoy a long outstanding relationship. We both countries have a plan of action, as you guys know right now. But do you think that it is necessary for both countries to initiate travel bubble policy? As we know that a travel bubble policy is a travel corridors or corona corridors, which is essentially an exclusive partnership between two countries that have demonstrated considerable success in containing and combating the COVID-19 pandemic within their respective borders. Yeah, I think that is my question.
Okay, thank you, Fikran. So travel bubble. I think initiating will be easy, but I think the problem will be whether our Australian counterparts want to visit Indonesia at the current state of emergency, right? And the other way around, I don't think Indonesia will send their people to Australia at the current state of emergency. So if you're asking as of now, I will not say it's not that necessary, but having travel bubble perhaps with other countries who already, show a very satisfying result of mitigating COVID would be great. But personally speaking, I don't think Indonesia is at the current state. So probably no for now.
Yeah, I agree. It's from Australia's point of view, I think we're really conservative. I've sort of only recently realized how conservative Australia is. If you compare us to other countries, like we think one case is too much. So at the moment, I'm in Sydney. I think we've got 30 cases and we've just started a lockdown. So like, if there's any cases, our governments are super quick to lock down. So I think it's going to be really tough politically to have a travel bubble. So I don't expect it to be anytime soon, which is really sad for me because I obviously want to be traveling to Indonesia as soon as I could.
Okay, thank you, Fikran, for your question.
You're welcome, Mbak Citra.
And we have another question from Lara. Silakan.
Okay. So my question is, since the pandemic era, every conference is going online. Do you have like any tips to how we can build connection in online conferences? Like, how it's, we have such as a participant, we have such minimal interactions with each other. Do you have any tips and tricks? Thanks. That's all.
Okay, Lara, thank you for the question. So yeah, I'm gonna say online conferences they're very hard. It's a one hard thing for me. For someone like me who really loves direct interaction, it's hard to have a virtual interaction like this. I once attended a conference during my just weeks before my graduation. I attended a conference, and I just I only connected with perhaps 5 or 6 delegates out of 30 or 40 delegates. It's different with a conference which I once attended in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. There were perhaps 120 delegates, and I am confident to say that I almost connected with more than 100 of them. So what will be the challenge and how I think you can cope with that for online conference cases? I would say for you to as Masden has already explained, better to focus on the quality of the interaction instead of quantity, because not only that now it's virtual, but it's also hard for you, to be all out in knowing people from the conference, right? For I don't know with other people, but for me, as simple as asking the delegates' social media accounts, I will say Instagram at the moment, that will be one of the best ways, right? Because we Indonesians we love having follow backs from people, right? And we will be very happy to follow them back if they follow us. So asking their social media account will be one of the best ways. But apart from that, as simple as sharing your story with people, with full emotion, not trying to tell a story that perhaps that is not interesting. I think that's also one of the best ways to connect with people, mostly with people who are attending the same conference. That would be for me.
I agree. It's been really tough. I don't think I've had what I would call a meaningful connection with a new person through these online events. It's just tough. So my first piece of advice would be to set your expectations a little bit lower, because there's just so much pressure when you attend these events. If you attend a webinar when you're not a panelist or anything like that, odds are on you're not going to make a connection. Like maybe you just ask the best question in the chat, but like it's just really tough if the odds are against you. So don't expect too much. Try and aim for more interactive events. So there's been some online conferences where you have breakout groups, you've got a small team of 5 or 10. Those are opportunities where you can make some more connections. And in those ones, I'd suggest being the person who says what not everyone is thinking but doesn't want to say, which is, can we all drop our WhatsApp or LinkedIn in the chat, and everyone will do it, like guaranteed, because everyone thinks the same thing. They want to connect as well, but no one wants to be the first person to say it. So just be that person. That's an advice I'd give. And then try and follow up from there. So if there is someone you find on an online event who's in your area, make the extra effort to maybe do a catch up. And if it's in one of those group settings and there's 3 or 4 of you in the same area, that's perfect, because you can have a mini conference at a cafe, and you might not gel with them, they might not be your best friends, but you have to go that extra step to make a physical interaction out of your online interactions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lara, for your question. And I think really that's all from me today. I think you have answered a lot of question and also sharing all your amazing experience. And I think I will give it back to Ryan for continuing the event, like closing, and also we have a really exciting announcement. But before I give it back to Ryan, can we please give a round of applause for Masdan and Abdul?
I didn't expect the real sounds.
Mbak Citra, you prepare so much.
Yay! Of course, like this is a really good event, and
Yep.
Abdul and Masdan, I've really enjoyed moderating the session and chatting with you and listening to your stories. And thank you so much for this sharing session. We have learned a lot from you, and then hopefully we will also be able to apply what we have learned from you today in our day-to-day networking life. Okay, thank you so much, and I give it back to you, Ryan.
All right, thank you, Mbak Citra. Thank you, Dan and Abdur. Maybe I think we have another session, but firstly, maybe we can hear from Dan and Abdur for the closing statement, because I knew that Dan and Abdur will be giving so much like a knowledge for us for today. Maybe firstly for Abdur, for your closing statement before I close this event in the way.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan, for the floor. So regarding the closing statement, okay, so I personally also learned a lot, even though I'm the one speaking here, but I also personally gain a lot of new insights regarding relations between Indonesia and Australia, something that should be, I would say, taught as early as possible to our young people in Indonesia, because Australia is so close with us physically, culturally, and we should be connected more with Australia, right? And to have that, and this also can be applied with, networking with other countries as well. I think for young people, particularly from Indonesia, you should be more courageous when it comes to opening your new networking, right? Be the first person who starts the conversation. Don't be afraid to start the conversation, and always, wanting to know more about the connections that you wish to have, because that's the first thing that you need to have when you want to have a lot of friends. And networking is not only about knowing a lot of people, because if that's the case, I think teachers will have a lot more connections than us, since every year they're going to have to teach, new classes every year. But as an individual, as a young person, I think pursuing connection, enlarging your connection and networking will be your network in the future, right? It's going to be very easy, and trust this when I say this, it's going to be very easy when you know people, instead of just, making yourself better, but only for yourself. Try to start conversations with a lot of new people. It doesn't matter the age, right? You don't just have connections with people who are in the same age as you. Start conversations with people who are older, start conversation with people who are smaller. You can learn a lot from those who are older than you, and from those who are younger than you. You can learn a lot of new insights as well, because you are from different generations, and that insights will help your connection and networking as well. I think
All
that
right.
will be.
Thank you, Abdur. And maybe Dan? do you have any suggestion?
Yeah, that's great advice from us, Abdur. I still find it tough to talk to people who are older than me. Like if I meet like a 30, 40, a 40, 50-year-old person, I find it really hard to like build a ongoing relationship because it feels like they're my dad or my mum. My advice would be a lot of networking is thinking about other people, but what makes it easier is if you know yourself a little bit better. Like what are you attending that event for? What do you want out of your career? What do you want out of your personal life? What motivates you? What doesn't motivate you? It's really hard for, like, if you met me and you didn't know why you were at the event, you didn't know what you want out of your career, we're going to have a very tough conversation. It's going to be a bit awkward. Whereas if, you tell me, I'm really passionate about, outer space, or I'm really passionate about the environment, I can suddenly help you, I can support you. So if you don't know your answer to those questions, that's the first thing you need to know about yourself before you start entering some of these conferences and some of these events.
All right. Okay. So the conclusion is Australia and Indonesia is more than a good neighbor, but also we as a brother and sister, and also we can help each other through this hard situation of pandemic. And yeah, I think like we will waiting for another session of AIYA to see how to building international networking between Indonesia and Australia youth space. And for now, I will announce who will get the lucky winners from the AIYA. So the first winner, get ready for the claps sounds. Okay, for the first winner for the question and answer session is Mbak Tifa. Congratulations!
Yay!
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. And the second one is Zahra. Congratulations, Zahra.
Yay! Thank you so much,
Okay.
Mbak Tifa and Zahra. I think a lot of
I think it's still okay.
a lot of people can relate to your questions. And
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, and then don't forget to follow our social media of AIYA. Wait a minute. Just make sure it's in the correct way. Okay. So don't forget to follow of AIYA Jakarta account in Instagram at AIYA Jakarta, and also AIYA Nasional at AIYA_nasional. And for IYOIN, you guys can follow at IYOIN JKT, IYOIN Jakarta. And then for national at IYOIN.org. Okay, and then don't forget to register as a member of AIYA, because we have a lot of advantages and benefit if you guys edit some as a member of AIYA. And then we were waiting for another session, another event that really have a good impact for each other. And before we leave this meeting session, I think like communication officer will help us to get a photo session. Maybe Kabila or Zahra. Please turn on your video or on cam. Just see how good you are.
Yeah, so we can see your beautiful faces.
Yeah.
Ayo dinyalain.
I think like
Still waiting. Maybe 10 more seconds.
Yep. Okay.
Ya.
Okay, I'll start,
Teman-teman
guys.
mungkin bisa dinyalakan on cam-nya, videonya.
Senyum semuanya. Alright, 1, 2, 3, smile. One more time. 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright, thank you everyone.
Okay, thank you Kak Mbak Citra, thank you Abdur, and thank you Dan, thank you AIYA Jakarta, and thank you IYOIN Jakarta that provided this event. See you on another session or event from AIYA Jakarta.
Dadah! See you soon!
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Don't forget to fill the link form G form.
Dadah.
All right. Thank you guys. Mbak Citra.
Yeah.
Thank you so